It is the morning show at Sports Radio 92.9 The Game, live from the Kia Studios on this Wednesday. Boy, Atlanta's had a run, huh? The Atlanta United doing well, the Braves doing well. We have big expectations from the Falcons. And through all this, there's another team that is excelling, and that is the Atlanta Dream, Hugh, because we are honored to have by the Associated Press, the WNBA Coach of the Year in studio, Nicki Collen of the Atlanta Dream. Welcome, Coach.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So, Coach, what has been coming here? What has been the biggest thing that you had to change about the culture here at the Atlanta Dream?
Well, I think this was a team that certainly had a lot of good pieces, a lot of good players, but we wanted it to be a very unselfish culture. A very team first, share the basketball, be hard to guard because we were really moving the basketball. So, it really started with trusting the process and trusting the pass. And we've kind of talked about that from the very beginning.
So, Coach, you seem like a little bit of a yeller. Have you had to do a whole lot of yelling since you've been here with the Atlanta Dream?
I think I'm a loud communicator. I wouldn't exactly say I'm a yeller.
Loud communicator.
I think I'm pretty passionate, and sometimes I think it's getting the attention sometimes of the officials, and it's just overuse, I think, at this point more than it is screaming. I don't think if you ask the fans that come to the games regularly, they would tell you that I'm like some kind of crazy screamer, but I rarely stop communicating.
So you're a really good communicator, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
A loud communicator.
Exactly.
Nicki Collen, head coach of the Atlanta Dream, with John and Hugh on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. The Dream plays their first home playoff game coming up on Sunday. Nicki, you took a team from 12 wins, and in your first year, you get them to first place, 23 wins. You get a double bye. You did the big turnaround here, and now there's serious aspirations. Hugh talks about your communicating. You're going to have to go into the playoffs, so without one of your key players, because Angel McCoughtry injured her knee. What does that mean to you guys?
Well, I think we, when we started the season, we knew we had one of the deepest rosters in the league. I think with Brittany Sykes being a player who last year started the second half of the season and made the all-rookie team and certainly has a lot of experience in this league as young as she is, we can survive the loss of an Angel McCoughtry, but there's no doubt that, Angel, one of the best playoff players in the history of the WNBA in terms of points per game, there are going to be big moments and tight situations where we're going to miss Angel. We're going to miss her leadership. We're going to miss just that confidence that she has in big moments. But, we're 17-0 this season when leading going into the fourth quarter. We've only lost one game when games have gotten tight. So this team has found a way to win games when they've needed to. And so we have to kind of still take that everybody's in this together approach, and it's not one player. It's what matchup is good for us in big moments.
I was just about to ask you, are you looking for one player to step over, or is it going to be more of a win by committee or type situation since you're not going to have Angel out there?
Well, when you look at our statistics, Tiffany Hayes has had an incredible year. She's been very consistent, leads us in scoring. Angel was second when she went down. But I think when we really took off in July and into August and started to play great basketball, we were putting 4 and 5 players in double figures consistently. And the emergence of Elizabeth Williams and Jessica Breland, our 2 post players that were consistently getting double figures during that stretch, it really is by committee for us. That doesn't mean that we aren't going to have good matchups. And Tiffany Hayes, we're going to play through her because we've been playing through her since the season tipped off. But we've really gotten good balance, and our scoring has gone up over 10 points a game over the last month of the season.
Nicki Collen, head coach of the Atlanta Dream. Last night, the LA Sparks knocked out the defending champions, and so Minnesota's out. The one-and-dones continue, and you don't know yet who you're going to play. But you will be best of 5, correct?
Correct.
Does it matter who you play?
I think there are probably matchups that sometimes are better. Everybody feels that way, that there's this crazy matchup for some reason that regardless of how good you've been, it's tough on you. We're obviously a team that doesn't have a ton of height. So sometimes, the Brittany Griners of the world are a little tougher for us. But no, I think it's a weird situation going in and not knowing even, all we know is that we will either play Washington, Connecticut, or Phoenix, and the first game Thursday night, if Washington wins, we know that's who we'll play because, Seattle's going to get the lowest seed remaining. So, we've played everybody. Phoenix is a team that we didn't win the series against, but Connecticut we won a series against. Washington we won a series against. So we're just going to prep like we have all year and take one game at a time.
You know what, Coach, speaking of that, speaking from a preparation standpoint, that has to be mind-racking to not know who you're going to play because you have to have your whole staff, like you're scouting 3 potentially different contenders. So how do you balance the time and who you're going to scout which day and how much time you're going to commit to that team?
Well, I think it's a little bit easier only because there's only 12 teams in this league, so there's only 11 other teams besides yourself, and we've played everybody pretty recently, and you have a pretty good feel. This is my 3rd year in the league. I know the coaches, I know the personnel in this league. And so it's not as difficult as one might think. Now, it's frustrating, but, for me, this is my 3rd year in the WNBA. Last year, I was an assistant in Connecticut. We got beat in the 2nd round by Phoenix in a one-game playoff. And I remember being just genuinely down for one of the first times in my career. And it was because part of the reason I came from college to the pros is have the opportunity to coach in a series, because that's what pro basketball is about. It's about making adjustments on the fly, game to game, and so being in a one-game playoff and losing after having such a good season, that was the one thing about going into the Vegas game and knowing we needed to win to clinch that double bye, how important that was. It felt like a playoff game to me because I think the idea of moving right in and knowing you're going to be in a 5-game series takes a little bit of that pressure off.
Nicki Collen, head coach of the Atlanta Dream with John and Hugh. She's in studio on Sports Radio 92 on the game. Dream's first playoff game, 3 o'clock tip on Sunday at McCamish. We don't know who they're going to play yet. We'll have to find that out in the next couple of days here, and we'll see who they get in the I was going to say the opening round, their opening round, semifinals of the WNBA. You've spent a couple of years in the league now, as you mentioned, Connecticut now here. What is your impression of the WNBA? I know there's talk of expanding the league. What is your impression of the league in general and where it's headed?
Well, I think our league is really at a really special point. I mean, we've hit the point where you saw parity for the first time in a long time. It's been so top-heavy with the Sparks and the Lynx the last couple years. But, when you think about the fact that those 2 teams were the 6 and 7 seeds this year and that the 1 and 2 seeds were both teams that had coaching changes in the offseason, you see the depth of our league. And even as good as Vegas was, as the 9, I just think the future's really bright for our league. I think, I'd love to see expansion, but I think we have to expand the right way. I certainly think there are players that didn't make the league this year that are capable, and you don't make it for a variety of reasons. I mean, we all know salary cap becomes an issue, and you have to balance your roster, and you only have so many guaranteed spots, and then you have balance off the end of your roster, usually, more inexpensively to stay under your cap. So, I'd love to see expansion, but I think we have to have healthy markets and know that, we're doing all the right things so that the league can continue to be successful because we're the longest standing professional league for women in the world right now.
Nicki Collen joining John and Hugh. You played collegiately at Purdue and Marquette.
Yep.
Thank you. So Purdue and Marquette, the college game and the quality of athletes that are coming into the league. We watch, Hugh and I, and women's college basketball, all we see is UConn beating everybody 110-2. Mm-hmm. Is college basketball, it's getting better? Is it going to continue to be that lopsided? Where do you see that game going?
Well, I think, you have a lot of players that grow up now, and they really grow up and see the marquee teams play a lot. And then when they have opportunity to go to those places, they tend to oftentimes take that route as opposed to the route that says, well, I want to be the first one that leads this program to the promised land. I think you're going to see some turn in that. I think Oregon has really taken off on the women's side. I think you have a lot of good athletes, but as long as Gino Auriemma is at the helm at UConn, he's going to continue to get 2 of the top 5 high school basketball players every year. It's just which ones is he going to get, and it's usually the number 1. Christian Williams this year was a National Gatorade Player of the Year, will be a freshman there. So, I think the quality is good. I think when you think about how that translates, to our game, there's still more so a handful of programs that a lot of the players that come into the WNBA come from. And a lot of times people have asked me, like, what is the most difficult thing about players, or what helps players coming from college be successful right away in the pros? And I'll tell you, it's the players that play for really good coaches, and it's the players that play in really athletic leagues, because the athleticism of the WNBA is far superior of any collegiate league there is. But if you were to compare, and I know you guys were talking about football, if you compare the basketball even in the Big Ten versus the SEC, it's not different a lot of times than like the football. You're going to talk about how athletic the SEC is in women's basketball. And so oftentimes the more athletic leagues for women's basketball, the ACC, the SEC, those players tend to come into the WNBA and be a little more prepared, for the quality of athlete that they're going to face on a daily basis.
Coach, we're talking about balance, and in a short period of time, in 3 years, you went from being an assistant to a head coach. How are you balancing your personal life? Because I know you got kids and you're married. How does that balance come in, and have you done a good job of keeping all that together?
I don't know. I don't know what balance means, in coaching. I will say this, coaching a lot of years in college and then moving to the pro game. The beauty of the pro game and being a mom is that I do have an off season. And while I scout and go to college games and do things like that and do some PR stuff in the off season, I really do have downtime, and I can be at lacrosse practice and soccer practice and horseback riding and those kind of things. The collegiate game is so much more year round, and so it becomes even tougher. So, for me, the grind of the WNBA season, I see my kids at the game. On a day off, I run up and see them and really communicate with them via social media like everybody else these days. But it's really cool to have that balance in the off season.
So, right. Coach, at the lacrosse matches and everything, are you in the coach's face when they're coaching your kids?
No.
You kind of play the back. Are you that parent, or do you play the background a little bit?
No, I'm quite good at being a cheerleader at my kids' practices. Like I know enough about how to let coaches coach to let people that know more about that sport coach my own kids.
All right, 30 seconds, Nicki Collen, promote the game on Sunday and what you offer the fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's great basketball, the highest level in the world, and we really need to pack McCamish. So bring friends, bring family. I think you'll be really excited about what you see. Our players play hard. They play together. They have a good time. People say we're the loosest team in the league. So I'm going to take that as a good thing. Our players know how to have fun.
That's a good thing.
Nicki Collen, thank you very much for taking the time and coming in today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Nicki Collen, head coach of the Atlanta Dream.